It's like if we want to change our life, then we change anything else about our life. We change our thinking, we change our experience, we change what we're doing, we change how we feel. All of these things when we actually have a new thought and go, hey, I think I'd rather have happiness instead of anger, or joy instead of judgment, or whatever it is, then that is the intention of being able to work with the mind, because we know it begins in the mind. And you were talking about the Rosenthal effect. Would you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's also called the Pygmalion effect, and it was named after like a Greek sculptor that fell in love with his sculpture so much that it came to life. And so so the Pygmalion effect, or Rosenthal effect, is what we expect of our expectations shape what happens. And so it was directly with teacher and students. They expected this one random group of students, not knowing it was random. They thought that these kids tested special, that they would really blossom this year. And so the expectation led to that outcome. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. And it like the pragmatic way is it affects how our underlying beliefs and expectations shape how we interact with others. And so there's also the reverse effect that also has a name. It's the golem effect. And so if we have low expectations of somebody, we get through, the metaphysical I believe in, but also the pragmatic of the way that we interact with them, we elicit that response and we get what we expect. And so, like with parents, it's a powerful thing, like showing your child that you believe in them and giving them that extra attention, or like, the old, back from my day growing up, you'll never amount to anything. Like I wasn't told that, not by my parents, but I was told that by a teacher or two. So that effect can go either way. And so again, it's like what I talked about in the talk is the balance, like really thinking about each action I take, each thought I take. Does it lead to more love? Does it lead to more upliftment? Or does it lead to tearing somebody down? And like my growth edge is seeing it with people in the news or politicians that I strongly disagree with, and they do something or say something, and my mind's like, that a-hole or trigger. Trigger. Yeah. And I'll label that person as less than. Yeah. But I need to remember there is no less than. Yeah. We're people. We're the whole package, and we just manifest and represent different parts of that inner spectrum. That, the saying is that I try to teach my kids is there are no bad people. There's people that make bad choices, or people that make, that do bad actions. Mm-hmm. As soon as we write a person off, kind of like the golem effect. Yeah. One example that I've, thought about a lot was with like, when you see in the news, like a school shooter, and right away, the news pundits, they're like, this animal, this is a monster, and take the humanity away from that person who was obviously hurting, something was obviously wrong, and then we call them less than. Well, the next person that's thinking about a shooting is out there listening. And so right now they're like, I'm a monster. I'm a less than, So we can try to develop that compassion and that love, like here's a human being that hurt. They did a horrible thing. And, if they're alive, we have to protect society from them, but let's not condemn them. That is, when you look at like the people that are in prison, the people that have done heinous things, almost all of them, like if not all of them, have had heinous things done to them. Yeah. I've also seen the thing where we have that compassion for it when it's like a 12-year-old that does something horrible. Like, oh, well, they had this happen to them. This happened. They're in the foster home. They've been abused. But then at some point we turn that switch off. Oh, they're 18 and they did that. Yeah. And then we change it. Like, when did we lose that compassion? It hurt people that hurt people.
Hurt people. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. It is a part of the human nature, right? Because it makes us want to demonize. Like it makes you're bad, I'm good. Yeah. Like this is the whole kind of Christian and many other religions perspective. And if it has to fall into two categories, like good and bad, then half the world's going to be in the bad, or if not more, and some are going to be in the good. And I think that's why seeking this greater, the third perspective, is how I put it. Seeking the third perspective, like how do we find that place? Like you were talking about, it is balance. It's just finding that place of balance. Like, oh, right, I am not necessarily the good guy in this situation. I like some of the videos they've done, a good guy with a gun, and all the guys are pulling out their, no, I'm the good guy. No, I'm the good guy. Hey, I'm the good guy, and it's just like, is that the reality? Is that the reality? And in some cases, of course, there's active shooter situation. There's a pretty black and white situation, in a sense. And at the same time, we know that those guys are lone wolves. We know that they don't have the support that they need. Certainly not the kind that they would want. It's easy to go down that rabbit hole. Columbine here in Colorado was one of the first big ones. And it was very painful. It was very painful for us as a community, a Colorado community. And, you want to demonize, just like we want to demonize, those politicians, those guys, the bad guys, not the good guys, but the bad guys, and so the more we can move past this black and white, this and that thinking, the more we have options. That's why I like the third option. That's really very much a new thought perspective of like, how do we get past these two, the either or, the Republican or the Democrat kind of choice? How do we get to these third, fourth, fifth, sixth different choices so that we are at true choice, so that we are able to make an actual decision for ourselves instead of go, I want that one or that one. The choice between which one's the worst one. Let's get rid of that one and keep the one that's not so bad. It's not a good political scenario. When you talked about the Rosenthal effect, the in science, the observer effect, right? We affect what we're looking at through our consciousness, through our expectation. We get what we intend. We get what we put out there. We get what our consciousness and our perspective, our perceptive lenses that have been shaped through our whole lifetime, from being a baby and all the energetic interactions with our parents and the negotiating, of teachers and, family and siblings and other kids and all of that stuff growing up in high school. And then we get out in the world and real people and all of these things that have shaped the reality in a very unconscious, usually in a very unconscious way. Let me say that, usually. And New Thought, this was my experience and my transformational experience in New Thought was, finding that and then being able to realize that we do have choice, that we are absolutely, and that's actually one of our imperatives that we choose in life. Because even when we don't choose, we're still choosing by default, because it's the same patterns that are going in our head. Oh, okay, I'm not going to choose. But then everything in the program just keeps running. The computer just keeps running. We're not going to stop until you give us different information. That's why I love this quote by Gandhi. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Such a powerful quote by Gandhi, because it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we're constantly at crossroads every second of the day. We can have a different thought or a different action or path every second of every day. Like, it doesn't matter so much like what's come before us. That's come before, and here I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can't change anything. And even if something happens right now that is either awful to me or something awful I did or whatever, we're right back there. Which path is going to lead towards greater fulfillment or greater resolution down the road, as opposed to like knee-jerk armored response of this is how I respond and that's what I got to do. Like, slow down and think about it. Like, there's always, in that balance thing, there's always one path or some paths on this part of the spectrum that are going to lead to just more harmony within yourself and in the world. So asking that question constantly.
Yeah.